So I mapped out this plan to do what was really in my heart that I wanted to do, which was do a lot more writing, kind of like leverage my knowledge a lot more, create like information products, books. I started a podcast. I started a blog. I started a newsletter. And in 2009, I was voted as America's top personal trainer by the National Strength Conditioning Association. And that kind of thrust me into the limelight of like traveling around all these conferences, giving talks from stages to personal trainers about the fitness business. And, I was kind of making a name for myself there. And so, so from about 2010 onwards, I started doing a lot more what I do now, which is, I coach and consult with people from all over the world about, health and performance and, sleep, gut, you name it. And then I do a podcast, do a blog, write books, write articles, do some investing in the health and fitness sector.
You could have literally turned every one of these chapters into a book, but you put them all in one book, which is like so ambitious and so cool. And just also that, says how much you wanted to get that information out there. So what was it? When did biohacking become a word or a thing? Do you when did biohacking become a thing that you'd seek and try and figure out? And have we actually always been doing it? We just gave it a name.
Yeah, it's the latter. We've always been doing it, but we gave it a name. I mean, if you look at our ancestors, and this is interesting because I was having a phone conversation with somebody about this yesterday, because they said, well, I want to do this and this and this, but I don't want to take any supplements at all. It's like, whatever they had, low vitamin D and low red blood cell magnesium and some issues with the gut. But they're like, I just want to do this through, food and movement, which is kind of laudable, want to take a natural approach. Yet when you look at our ancestors, humankind for all of its existence and the animal kingdom as well has been relying upon, plants, root, barks, leaves, teas, tinctures, powders, oils, salves, blends, all these things that we get from nature. The emergence of, say, modern encapsulation technology, which allows us with a little bit of better living through science to do those same things and to harness those same herbs and plants and powders and extracts, etc., but in a little bit more of a convenient manner, doesn't mean that something like supplementation is unnatural. It's something that we've done for a long time, and in the realm of biohacking, and I would say, in some ways, supplementing with certain things can certainly fall into the category of using certain hacks to adjust your biology, which is basically what biohacking is. To a certain extent, we do that with technology too, right? Like, since the 40s, we've known that, I'm just going to use a far out example here, like sunlight on a man's balls can increase libido and testosterone, right? So
I've been recommending that every day to my boyfriend. I'm like, let's just put some sun on your balls.
Do some perineum tanning. But now we have all these red light technologies that, joking aside, when a man uses, like 10 to 20 minutes of like, a mix of different red lights, like infrared light, on his gonads, you actually see an increase in testosterone and blood flow. And so, it's something our ancestors would have done with the sun, and now we're doing it with red light panels. And ultimately, for me, the initial idea that there are things that you can do that go beyond just, say, like exercise and nutrition to amplify muscle growth or recovery or sleep or gut health or anything else was something I discovered when I was bodybuilding, because I had a brief stint for a couple of years in college as a bodybuilder. So I was about 175 pounds in college. I got a dare from one of my friends to sign up for a bodybuilding competition that was like 11 months away. So I signed up for it and, just started lifting like an animal and, downing these man in a can chemical infused protein shakes like 6 times a day, and, showing up at the gym at 4 a.m. before all my classes and, downing a bunch of Red Line or whatever other mix of pre-workouts happened to be at the gym, and, get my, they work. I mean, they're essentially, a mix of, ephedra and sildenafil, basically an upper with something very much like Viagra for blood flow, but they work. They're fast track to a heart attack at the gym, but they work. And so I started bodybuilding, just lifting like an animal. So I put on about 45 pounds of muscle, and wound up competing at 215 pounds and about 3% body fat. But along the way, of course, via all these magazines and old school online forums, I started to delve into all this bodybuilding lore and literature. And I think bodybuilders, when it comes to the physical culture aspects of biohacking, were some of the original biohackers, as far as like, oh, here's the pill you pop, and here's what you inject, and here's the different creams and powders, and everything from peptides and SARMs to wrapping tourniquets around the muscle to decrease blood flow to increase results. So a lot of the stuff people are funny enough just now kind of like making popular and discovering in the past 5 years. 20 years ago, bodybuilders were doing this. So that was kind of like, even though I was a poor college student, all I could afford was like creatine and tuna and protein shakes. I still, paid attention to a lot of that stuff. And then, in the past several years, biohacking seems to have just exploded in terms of a term that is used to describe a lot of things that really I don't think are biohacking, right? Like, I don't think, say, like, let's say, putting butter or ghee or coconut oil into your coffee or going for a walk barefoot in the sunshine is biohacking, right? That's just like basically A, cooking, and B, walking outside in the sunshine without your shoes on. It's not biohacking.
Right.
But the original biohackers, if you actually look at kind of like the history of biohacking, they were called grinders, right? They called their body wetware, and they would use technology that they'd call hardware to amplify certain aspects of human function. So these would be like the type of people who install like a tiny magnet in the chest that will vibrate every time that you face true north, or small magnetic implants in the ears that enhance hearing. Or you might find a story online about the guy who injected chlorophyll into his eyeballs for night vision. Or another example would be Kevin Warwick, probably the original so-called human cyborg, who literally, he and his wife installed like magnetic implants in their fingers to be able to, kind of like that movie Minority Report,
Sure.
be able to interact with screens and technologies. And so that I really think is like the true original term of biohacking, literally like a computer hacker taking apart a hard drive and amping up the graphics software or the graphics card, or or defragging a computer to make it run faster or whatever. These people are using like technology to literally implant things in the body, or remarkably and quite significantly alter human biology in a way that I think is a true hack. I think a lot of what we do now that we call biohacking, even though of course the term has umbrellaed to cover a lot of different things,
Right.
is really just like using smart living and science to be healthier.